Welcome to the Earning Freedom Podcast and the Success After Prison Podcast. I am Michael Santos, here to inspire people who are listening, anyone. I went through prison because of some bad decisions I made when I was 20 years old, and I served the next 26 years inside of federal prisons of every security level. But I've been back in society since August of 2013, and I have been driven to build a life of success, meaning, and relevance ever since I was sucked into the prison system. And since I've come home, I've been working hard to show other people the strategies that empowered me through multiple decades in confinement, because I am absolutely committed to helping more people in prison emerge successfully. And this particular podcast is episode number 27 of Success After Prison, where I have been reading word for word, basically, this book, Success After Prison, one of my newest books, How I Built Assets Worth $1 Million Within 2 years of release from 26 years inside, and how you can succeed too. Now, this book is all part of a course that I create called the Earning Freedom Mastermind Course. It's supplementary information that I provide for people who are living in struggle but want to break free from that struggle, want to change the outcome of their lives. And so I've been reading this book in 20-minute episodes. I repackage them on CDs, and I send them into prisons and jails and schools across the United States with hopes that people who are listening to them will find meaning in the message, will recognize that success after prison or success after struggle really begins with the decisions an individual makes while in struggle. That is certainly what I learned from masterminds like Socrates and Frankl and Nelson Mandela and Solzhenitsyn and so many others. They really helped me find my way, and this course is showing you what I learned from them, and it's my hope that you will embrace this message and begin sowing seeds for your better outcome right now. Now, in the previous episode, I told you that I was going to talk a little bit about my relationship with Deputy Warden Michael Tausig as I was working down here in Orange County and building doing my work in corporate America and talking with Tim, my employer, about the importance of building digital products when I received this call out of the blue from Michael Tausig. Now, Michael, he came across a Straight A Guide course that I'd created with Justin Paperny for the Nonprofit Foundation. And we had distributed the course to several jails, schools, and prisons, and somehow Michael learned about it and he contacted me to learn more about what it would take to bring the Straight A Guide to Maine's prison system. So the Straight A Guide was a comprehensive course with 10 modules of 5 lessons each. I hold my hands but for 10 modules of 5 lessons each. And the course included workbooks, video discs, and soft cover books. Further, the facilitators needed to proceed through a full day of training to learn the concepts. So I created the course with the intentions of selling this Straight A Guide course to institutions across the United States. But as I described in earlier episodes of this Success After Prison podcast, the reality was that I lacked enough capital to fully implement the plan. And remember, I wrote about how that was why I went out to try to raise more capital so that I could do this, and indirectly that led to me getting this job in corporate America. But since I had accepted the full-time position with Tim's organization, I did not have the liberty to travel to Maine so easily, which was what Michael wanted me to do. He wanted me to get out to Maine and help him introduce the course and teach it to people. But I explained to him that I was working to create new digital products, and I suggested that he allow me to create something new that we could test inside of the Maine State Prison, because I was on this path of learning about digital products. But if the idea worked in Maine, I said that I would strive to expand to other markets. And Mike wanted to know more. He wanted to know what I had in mind. So I suggested that I create the Earning Freedom Mastermind course. That's why I really value Mike Tausig, because he really inspired me to create this course. Since he was in Maine, I used the hockey metaphor, right? To paraphrase Wayne Gretzky, which I'll probably butcher the paraphrase, but I said that rather than skating to the puck, we need to skate to where the puck is going, right? I needed, from my perspective, prisons really needed more content from formerly incarcerated individuals who could help people understand what does it take to succeed, right? People in prison sometimes don't want to get the message from staff members, but they may be more receptive, or at least we could help the staff members communicate the message about what works. What does it take to succeed? And, the educational market, I believed, was going to expand to begin using digital products. And why? Because they were less expensive to produce than physical products to both create and distribute. And with digital products, I told Michael, I could create new content for prisoners in the state of Maine that would be both timely and relevant. Besides that, the Mastermind course could be interactive, giving the men inside opportunities to ask questions and receive answers from people who emerged from prison successfully. So I anticipated that I could create the Earning Freedom courses from my desktop computer, and all I would need was to research how, but since I had Tim's support, and I believed that I could learn how. I could learn how to create webinars and audiobooks. In fact, I told him that I would create a 10-part lesson plan and a series of videos that featured interactions with formerly incarcerated people. And since I could use technology to film the recordings, I could produce the course in an efficient manner and distribute the course through internet links. So it would be really inexpensive to produce. Now, each course would include lessons from leaders who showed the path to overcome struggle. But more importantly than that, the participants would be able to ask questions, and I would film responses to their questions. I really believed that an Earning Freedom course could help build an intrinsic motivation for people who live without hope. It could help get them going and help them recognize what they could do to change their life. So Michael Taussig saw the value that digital courses could offer. In fact, he agreed to purchase a 1-year license to use the Earning Freedom program in the state of Maine's penitentiary. So we settled on a relatively nominal fee of $1,000, a $1,000 price point for an annual license of the digital version of the program. Now, $1,000, it's not going to build an empire. I can tell you that. I mean, you can't. I mean, when you talk about the costs of production, everything, $1,000 doesn't make it work. But as Tim said, businesses took time to build. And I wanted to budget 3 years to build products and services, a suite of products and services that would serve institutions like the state of Maine's prison system. And the same course that I created for Maine would be of value to people across the country, not only for people in prison, but for anyone. You see, rather than limiting the course content for people in prison, I intended to create a lot of content that would apply to every citizen who aspired to overcome any type of struggle and reach a higher potential. In order to do this, I knew that I was going to need to build this course in stages. First, I'd need to create an abundance of content that was freely available. Then, I believed that I would need to create proprietary content that I could sell. So some of it was going to be free, and the products that I would sell would help me keep going. And I'd also need to ensure that anyone who had access to the content would find a powerful and actionable message of personal empowerment. I wanted to give them tools on what they could do. So that became my plan. And I started scouring the internet to look for anything I could find that would help me learn more about creating digital products. The whole message in sharing this with you is laying out again how this pattern repeats itself. That's what got me through 26 years in prison. I'd think about what my avatars needed. I'd ask questions about how I could serve them or earn their trust or build credibility or build my authenticity. And then I would create a plan, and then I'd start executing the plan. And that's what I want you to do. If you're living in struggle, I want you to think about your avatars, the people that you define successful as being successful, the people you want to connect with. Figure out what is it going to take to earn your credibility with them. Build a plan, and then execute the plan. Well, before I tell you what I learned from my research of digital products, I need to give a bit more background, okay? I mean, because this book is really about, as I wrote here, how I built assets worth $1 million within just a couple of years of getting out of jail. So before I describe more about the digital products, I need to give a little bit more background. See, since emerging from prison, I really worked to build multiple income streams. The work I did while I was incarcerated, it really helped me set the stage for such opportunities. Those who read this book from inside of a jail or a prison should recognize how decisions they make today, or you make today, if I'm going to speak directly to you, how these decisions are going to influence prospects or opportunities for success in the weeks, in the months, and in the years to come. Now, earlier I wrote about Lee opening a job opportunity for me to work in one of his companies immediately after my release. And while I was on that job, I was simultaneously earning additional revenues from public speaking events, from a steadier stream of income came in from consulting work that I did for other people and writing services that I offered for others. Rather than taking time off for relaxation, I took advantage of every opportunity available to build financial resources that Carol and I could use to achieve our goals. So although I had to work 7 days each week, many hours each day, the progress we made brought a sense of fulfillment. We both were working toward a better future than anyone would have expected after multiple decades in prison. And since I was so public, as an aside here, always publishing about what I was doing on Facebook, I'd frequently get reprimanded, or people would venture opinions about how I should take time off and relax and, go to the movies. I didn't do any of that. All I did was focus on what I needed to do because I was 100% committed to success. And I'm not saying that's the path for everybody, but that was the path for me because I did want to succeed. I did want to overcome the challenges that were going to accompany the 26 years that I served in prison. I wanted to be successful, and I knew I had to work hard to do it. So I didn't place a lot of value on the opinions that others gave me about how I should adjust. All I did is focus on what my masterminds did. And that made a big difference. As a consequence of my writing and publishing from inside, I had a level of authenticity when I returned to society. Remember, I began with a plan, thinking about the avatars I wanted to influence. I thought about who they were. And by executing, and then they helped me create a plan. And by executing that plan every single day of my journey, which was 9,500 days as a prisoner, when I returned to society, I had a really strong support network. Some of the people in my network were defense attorneys. And when they had clients facing prison and those defendants had questions about prison, the attorneys would recommend their clients to contact me. And I would charge those defendants a fee to help them prepare for the journey ahead. Those people became my clients. They looked for guidance on how they could do a lot of things, on how they could influence the judge to impose the lowest possible sentence. I had a lot of expertise in that after 26 years as a prisoner and interviewing hundreds and hundreds of other people from every background. I wanted to help them influence the Bureau of Prisons so that they could get to the best possible prison. I wanted them to influence the probation officer so that they would help them with their pre-sentence investigation report. I wanted to help them influence their family so that they could get a plan in motion to make the most productive use of their time inside and prepare for a successful return to society. And also, for a lot of people, I would write books that, as a ghostwriter, that would describe their life story and position them for a career of a successful rebound after confinement. And the clients, they would pay me a premium to learn lessons that empowered me through the decades that I served. So I earned quite a bit of money doing this type of consulting or writing or narrative type work. And others retained me to, as I said, to ghostwrite books for them. And the fees that I earned from providing one-on-one consultation or writing services, they helped me to build my financial resources that I could leverage. But remember, had I not done the work while I was in prison, none of those income opportunities would have opened for me. But while researching information on the internet about how I could create digital products, I stumbled upon information that would really contribute to the business I was striving to build with Tim. The bonus was that would also bring more attention to the consulting work I did on the side. Specifically, I learned about podcasts, right? You're listening to this episode right now on a podcast. It was a concept that I had been learning, that I'd been somewhat familiar with before, but I didn't really know what it was. So the podcast I found was called Lawpreneur Radio with Miranda McCroskey, and it profiled an attorneys. So I was listening to Lawpreneur Radio. I had a new idea. On the episode that I heard, Miranda was interviewing Diane Bass, one of the premier defense attorneys in Orange County. And I listened to the entire interview and felt totally inspired. I mean, Diane was she came across as articulate, and Miranda was an awesome interview host. And I listened to this interview and felt inspired. I said, "Guy, that's pretty awesome, the way that they're getting people to understand what they do." And I thought, a podcast could be a great digital product to create. After all, podcasts were accessible to anyone who had access to the internet. And if I were going to create the Earning Freedom podcast, more people would learn a value that I could provide. So a podcast could potentially lead to more consulting business, while it would simultaneously lead to a library of digital content that I could use to inspire others. And so after listening to Miranda's interview with Diane, I reached out to both women. I liked the idea of using podcasts to profile experts, just as Miranda had profiled Diane. You see, I'm always learning from masterminds, from leaders. And without a doubt, Miranda was a leader in her field. And Diane is one of the top Orange County defense attorneys down here. So, I really wanted to connect with them. So as I found throughout my journey, we always strengthen ourselves when we bring more mentors into our life, when we can show that we're 100% authentic, always committed to leading lives of relevance, meaning, and contribution. That's when we do that, people are more willing to invest in us. So, despite my background of serving decades in prison, both Diane Bass and Miranda McCroskey agreed to meet with me. They each played a role in influencing my pursuit of a successful career. Now, Diane introduced me to scores of influential criminal defense attorneys. And when the attorneys had clients facing time in federal prison, they would refer those people to me. So like Diane, Miranda also took the time to meet with me. She mentored me on what it would take to build a successful podcast, and she introduced me to a program that offered online teaching service that would help me become a podcaster. So all of this together was really part of the journey. It was part of the journey that began many, many decades before when I was in federal prison. And that's what success after prison is all about. It's about learning strategies early on in your journey, mastering those strategies, and then expanding upon them so that you can come back to society strong, with your dignity intact, ready to begin building a successful career that extends far beyond what anybody else would expect. That's what it means to learn from masterminds and to prove worthy of those lessons that I learned from Socrates and Viktor Frankl and Nelson Mandela and Miranda McCroskey and Diane Bass and Bill Gates and Steve Walsh, Steve Jobs, so many masterminds. They're all embarking upon this same path. What is it? Instead of thinking about themselves, they think about building a better community, a better society, demonstrating through their works and through their daily decisions that they want to contribute. And when they do that, they get paid 10x, 100x. Many opportunities keep coming back to us because of this effort. So as I continue this episode here, I just want to remind you that the harder you work, the luckier you're going to become. That's the message of Success After Prison. That's the message of the Earning Freedom podcast. That's the message of every piece of work that I do. And if you're listening to this outside in society, I really hope that you will support the work by subscribing to the iTunes podcasts that I host, subscribing to my channel on YouTube, liking my page on Facebook, just getting involved with the social media movement to resolve the greatest social injustice of our time. And if you're in prison, I'm really hoping that you'll help me by behaving in such a way and adjusting in such a way that reflects your commitment to emerging as a law-abiding, contributing citizen, so that you can help me spread this message of why we need to reform our nation's prison system. Now, if you want to listen from earlier podcasts, they're available all through my social media channel platforms for free. But if you want a free digital book, not a problem. Visit one of my websites, either michaelsantos.com or prisonprofessor.com. Enter your email, and a digital version of the book will be sent to you immediately. If you want to order paperback copies for you or for loved ones who may not have access to the internet, you can do so through my website as well or through Amazon. So that comes to the end of this 20-minute episode. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about how I began building the Earning Freedom podcast and how it all contributed to how I built assets worth $1 million within 2 years of my release. I am Michael with michaelsantos.com and host of the Earning Freedom podcast, host of the Success After Prison podcast, and I'm really looking forward to bringing the next episode next. You see my voice is getting a little hoarse. This is, I think, the 7th episode I've recorded today, but I'm determined to keep going. Remember, I never ask anyone to do anything that I don't do. We'll be back tomorrow soon. Thanks. Bye.